Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbia Online, a congregation striving to embody courageous love, radical welcome, and deep connection. We are so grateful for this gathering this morning, as we are reminded that our church is not a building, but a beloved community of all of us together. I'm Jamila Batchelder, the Director of Religious Education of this congregation, and I am so glad to welcome you to our community. Although we all miss gathering in person on Sundays, the online services have given us an opportunity to connect with many people who we might not have met otherwise. We welcome, in particular, the members of the Jefferson City Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, as well as all of you in Missouri and beyond. A few comments about protocol for today's online worship. We are in Zoom and streaming live on Facebook. We are in Zoom webinar mode, so we can't hear or see you. Feel free to eat your breakfast in your PJs, and don't worry if your day is a bit noisy. You'll be able to say hello and to interact with the service through the chat feature. Make sure you select panelists and attendees so everyone can see your comments. This will be particularly useful if you wish to share a joy or sorrow when we reach that portion of the service. A few notes about accessibility. We are using Zoom's native auto captioning service, which means you will see automatically generated subtitles at the bottom of your screen. You will have several options for these if you click the live transcript button that should appear at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you do not wish to see subtitles, or if you find them distracting, you can use the hide subtitles option at that button to turn them off. If you prefer your captions to appear as a live transcript at the side of the screen, you can choose view full transcript in the same menu. We know that auto captioning is never entirely accurate, but we hope it will be close. You will also hear spoken descriptions of the videos we use. We'd also like to invite you to please contact us if you have any other accessibility or inclusion needs that we can strive to meet in our online worship. You can email Reverend Molly Housh Gordon at minister@uucomo.org with accessibility issues. If this is your first time worshiping with us, we'd like to invite you to fill out a digital visitor's card at the link provided in the chat. Let us know a little about you. And I'd like to thank the folks that make our online worship possible. Thank you to our worship associate and to our amazing staff, April Rodiguero running slides, music director Jeremy Wagner, and pianist Hans Harris, and of course, our minister, Reverend Molly Housh Gordon. This morning's service will involve a ritual of reflection, letting go, and setting intention as we prepare to move into a new year. If you'd like to engage in the rituals from home, I'd invite you to gather a couple of things now or during the prelude. You might like to have a bowl of water for a ritual of cleansing, and some lotion or even a dab of olive oil or some other skin-safe oil for anointing. Our prelude this morning is a traditional American tune, Beautiful Morning, arranged by John Wyckoff and performed by the professional choral ensemble Vox Nova, which is based here out of Columbia, Missouri, and with whom our music director, Jeremy Wagner, performs. The still image shown during the song is a sunrise over mountains. There is a blue sky with clouds above the orange sunrise, and the clouds are creating big sun rays. Please settle into our worship now with the help of these musicians.
We stand at the edge of a year that is both new and not, as every year is. Nothing dramatically will magically change on January 1st. And yet the rhythm of the year allows us a pause, a moment to remember, release, reflect, and resolve. This year has been exceptional in so many ways, perhaps even in our relationship to the way time passes. But today we engage versions of the same rituals we share every year, remembering that our full and embodied presence to the moment at hand is accessible to us each year, each day, each moment. The Persian Sufi poet Rumi tells us, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair, even if you've broken your vow 1,000 times, come yet again come." At the edge of a new year into a moment of reflection, let us now enter. We come bearing burdens and regrets. We come with hopes and plans. We come just as we are. We come with exuberant and joyful hearts, eager to witness to others, or we come bereft of the goodness of life, wondering and hesitant. We come just as we are. We come full of resolutions and promise. We come though we've broken our vow 1,000 times. We come just as we are to join one another as members of one human family, our hearts outstretched at the edge of this new year. Come, yet again come. Our opening hymn is "Come, Come, Whoever You Are," and we invite you to sing along from home to the video, which has an image of a sunset and the lyrics on the screen. We'll also post the lyrics in the chat.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, condemned, worshipper, whoever you're leaving, ours is no worshipper, lover is leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again,
We come now to our chalice lighting and words of affirmation. As we share an image of our church chalice, you may wish to light a candle at home or look in the link for a digital chalice which lights when you click. Will you please join me as we light our chalice in sharing the words of affirmation shown in the slide, lifting our voices in homes across our city, country, and world to share our words of affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. Usually, we begin this part of our New Year's service by reflecting on our map of the year and how it has shaped the topography of who we are. But this year was seismic, and the ground has not settled yet. And so we only begin the process of journeying out, like after a natural disaster, feeling the ground under our feet again, getting our bearings, not yet ready to make sense of it. And so for our centering, we will merely let our mind journey through the year, from where we were on January 1st, 2020, to where we are today. Just feeling the twists and turns, the constant disorientation and reorientation that this year has been. We will continue to practice breathing and feeling our way slowly, knowing that we don't yet need to know where we end up or what it all means. A video will come up on the screen that I took while walking the labyrinth over by Boone Hospital at twilight. It is an image of the ground ahead of me while I move slowly through the twists and turns.
In 2020, we wore masks.
April, you might just click the play button by the audio. Thank you, everyone. An extra thank you to April for rolling with things when the minister gets the slides in the wrong order. As we think back over a very unique year, we wanted to share a slide your most quintessential images of 2020. Some of you in masks, some holding ballots or wearing I voted stickers, some spending extra time outdoors or making sourdough or sharing distance visits, doing online schooling, and more. We will remember the church members we've lost. And because nothing in the world is all one way, either bad or good, we have included in the spirit of both and some of the happy highlights of our year. So without further ado, I give you our 2020 slideshow.
In 2020, we wore masks. And stayed apart. We found new ways to do church. And be church. And to love our neighbors. And love on each other. We learned online. We saw powerful uprisings for the sanctity of Black life. We spent lots of time outdoors. We won Medicaid expansion. And voted in record number. baked a lot of bread and tried a lot of hobbies. We grieved. And celebrated. We lived and loved and hoped for better in 2021. Happy New Year, you churchers.
It's a lot. It was a lot this year. And it was so lovely to see some of your faces in that slideshow and know that we are holding one another through the whole year and in this moment. It is in that spirit of holding that we share the joys and sorrows and prayers of our community each week. Let us now be with one another in heart across the distance, remembering our connections and feeling that we are held by one another in love amid life's sorrows and joys alike. I will begin by sharing the joys and sorrows submitted at our website, and then I will invite those gathered to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. Let us join our hearts with Linda Valentine, who shares concern for her mom who tested positive with COVID-19 on Christmas Eve. We give thanks that she is currently asymptomatic and has had no temperature spikes or cough, and we send deep healing wishes and hope for her well-being. And we join our hearts with Connie Ordway, who is overjoyed to announce that her partner Jeff celebrates his 57th birthday today. Connie is beyond grateful that Jeff is in her life, and we are grateful that he is in the life of our community as well. I'd like to now invite your joys and sorrows in the chat, and we will share them and hold them together. We join our hearts with Katie in sharing healing wishes to their friend Heather's mother, who's back in the hospital with COVID complications. We join our hearts with Robin in sharing joy that her dad had COVID and survived, as he just found out from a COVID antibody test. My goodness. We join our hearts with Patty in joy to be a part of this community. We join our hearts with Jamila in concern for a loved one being diagnosed with cancer. We join our hearts with Jim in remembering his mother, Helen, who died in 2012 and would have been 100 yesterday. We join our hearts with Patty in joy that she has received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. You give hope to us all, Patty. We join our hearts with Ben in sorrow for his best friend, Emily, whose house was completely destroyed from a burst water pipe on Christmas Day. Gratitude that she was out of town and that her kitty survived. We join with Sarah, who shares anxiety at seeing so many pictures of large family gatherings and concern about the effects in the coming week. We join our hearts in sending warm thoughts and positive vibes to Robin as she awaits an autoimmune diagnosis. We join our hearts with Pam Springsteel in wishing her a happy, happy birthday. And we share her joy that her son and daughter-in-law have received their first dose of the COVID vaccine. We also join our hearts with Jamila in celebrating Ruby's 13th birthday today. Joy. These things and so many more joys and sorrows, hopes and yearnings and prayers we hold together in our hearts and in the light of our love. Will you continue with me in prayer with the words of Lynn Cox? Spirit of life and love, known by many names and yet fully known by none, we give thanks for this time of renewal. We give thanks for the ability to begin again. After the disaster, after the tragedy, after the loss, after meeting the challenge set before us, and in every moment. Grant us the courage to continue on the journey, the courage to speak up for the well-being of others and ourselves and the planet. Help us forgive each other when our courage falls short, and then try again. Grant us hearts to love boldly, embodying our faith and our values in living words and deeds. May our hearts open to embrace humility, grace, and reconciliation. May we always continue to learn and grow, to let the spirit of love and truth work its transformation upon us and within us. Grant us the spirit of hospitality, the willingness to sustain a dwelling place for the holy that resides in each and all. Grant us a sense of peace in the world, even as we are in motion. And let us cultivate together the strength to welcome every kind of gift and all manner of ways to be on the journey together. Amen. Our song of response is an arrangement of an old gospel tune, Not One Sparrow is Forgotten, arranged by W. Hawley and performed again by Vox Nova. The still image on the screen is of two small birds sitting in frost-covered grass.
Not one sparrow
It is important to remember that as in any year, there was plenty of good in 2020. It was a year when beautiful babies were born and dreams were realized and good was done. And it's important to let ourselves be really clear and true about all that was awful in the year now ending. We don't need to find silver linings or but at leasts. It can all be true. There were some beautiful things in 2020, and in a lot of really formative ways, it was a terrible year full of trauma and grief and hardship and loss. To the bad stuff, we can wish a very good riddance, even if our good riddance itself won't drive away the suffering. In a moment, we will have a time for more private and intimate release, but now we'd like to invite you into a public time of rebuke for all of 2020 that can just go burn, perhaps in the hell Universalists don't believe in. We invite your cathartic sharing in the chat of all that needs to go in the fire, but we remind you as Universalists that we don't burn up people, only events and forces and awful things. Jamila will read aloud the things that you wish to burn from the chat, and I will scribble away and toss them in the flames.
I'll start us off with Schoology. For all the parents who've struggled with that. COVID. Patriarchy. Our grief over not seeing our grandchildren and all our loved ones in the months and months and months. Missing the children of our church community at UUCC. Not touching our friends. Lack of hugs. People not wearing masks. Still not having universal health care in the US. Feeling the love when in close proximity. Not feeling that. And isolation. The hoarders of toilet paper. Online preschool. What even is that? Masks worn under noses. Trying to tutor my sister in math because Apex learning is also awful. And the big one, white supremacy. Let's put that in the fire. Scarcity of touch, resources, and more. Missing family gatherings. Virtual school. People not caring about other people. Malicious disinformation. And again, isolation. Broken elbows and other ailments. The past administration coming to a close. You guys are going fast. I got to catch up here. No coffee or lunch dates with friends. Chaotic, corrupt, and inept government. The passage of Amendment 3, ending election reforms. No potlucks. Not being at my program anymore. From Katie. Lack of compassion. No singing in person. I miss that so much. Marginalized people suffering greater than those with wealth. This one may be high on my list. Zoom and Zoom breakdowns and all tech glitches.
I'm running out of paper, so I'm going to have you read the rest faster and I'll write a bunch on the same page.
All right. Compounded cruelties and inhumane treatment for migrants and detainees. So many people who have been lost. Profits over people. Being afraid. Being worried and guilt over every gathering, no matter the precautions. So many moral decisions to make on a daily basis. Missing in-person graduations and other major life celebrations and traditions. Family dysfunction exacerbated. No memorial services. Inability to hold friends' newborn babies. The drive-by graduation ceremonies. Goodbye and into the fire.
You know what, Jamila? I'm not sure the fireplace is satisfying enough for all that needs to go from 2020. I think we should just go ahead and blow up the whole thing. So we're going to show you all a cathartic clip from Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. It pictures a huge 3-dimensional 2020 made of white wood in a safe environment surrounded by rock in a quarry. And then it pictures the whole thing being blown up. Lots of fire and explosives. No people in the shot and no one at any risk of harm. But I do warn, if this could be triggering for you, you might mute or step away for a moment. The clip is 1 minute and 24 seconds long. A cathartic blowing up of 2020. Good riddance. So now that we've had a moment of public rebuke for 2020, let us move into a more intimate space of release, which we share each year. Our reading is by the Reverend Peter Friedrichs. Release. I wish I were like the trees who let their leaves go gracefully without regret, or the tumbling stream that flushes silt to the sea, exchanging murkiness for clarity. Or the dandelion who bows its head to the subtle breeze, unleashing its future without fear or loss. Instead, I drive white-knuckled, defensive as we were taught, tense and guarded for what may come my way. I keep a death grip on my life. If you asked me for my dying wish, it would not be for 10 more wishes. It would be to let go of wishing anymore. Wishing I'd made different choices and that I hadn't hurt you as I did. And to forgo these old and dusty grudges that I keep like pictures in a shoebox beside my bed. I long to embrace my life with a lover's touch, or as you would an injured wren, precious, tender, true. Instead, regret and fear, twin anchors, hold me fast close in against the shore. Cast off, I hear them call from the open, exotic lands my heart yearns for. But the waters in between my here and theirs hold unknown hazards, unlike this dark, familiar port. This day, a prayer to ease my grip on what once was, or what is meant to be, that I might find myself content to drift and float upon life's boundless sea. So this year, as each year, we take a moment to attempt release. Let go of wishes, to forego old and dusty grudges, to empty our hands so that we can embrace our life with a lover's touch, precious and tender and true. Each year, we take a moment to ponder the regrets and resentments, grudges and grumps, shames, all those things that feel like they're clogging up our hearts from the year now past. All those things that are clogging up our hearts that want to be open to the world in its everythingness. All those things that distract our minds, which want to be more present to the moment at hand. Usually we write them down on flash paper and burn them in great style. But this is a different year. So I'm going to invite you into an intimate ritual in the quiet, in your home. Not the drama of fire, but perhaps appropriately for 2020, a ritual hand washing. I'm going to invite you to sit for a moment of music with your hands turned upward and open, and imagine them covered in all that you would release. And then when you've had a moment to sit with all of that, I'm going to invite you to use your bowl of water or go to your sink and very gently, tenderly wash away the things that are not serving you as we move into a new year. Here is a moment of music for your contemplation and your cleansing.
should have thrown into the fire, forgetting to unmute. But we will now join in our weekly ritual of generosity, pausing to give from gratitude for our lives and remembering by sharing the great good that we can only accomplish together. Our offering music is another recording from the Vox Nova Vocal Ensemble, By and By, in a traditional African-American spiritual. The image on the screen is of a cloudy sky at sunrise, with the sky brilliant blue and clouds like thick brushstrokes of orange, hot pink, and deep purple. At the very bottom of the image is a mountainous horizon.
So from release, we now move into a time of resolve, reflecting on our intentions for the year to come. Our reading is Blessing for a New Year by Celtic poet John O'Donohue. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays and the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. So every year in this service, we invite you to choose a word that will be your word for the year. And last year, as we were setting out to begin 2020, I chose the word delight. And I had about 2 really delightful months. And then 2020 happened for real. And we remembered our helplessness and our vulnerability, the depth of our interconnection, and all the ways in which the word we choose doesn't control a dang thing. But of course, it never was going to. The word we choose was never going to shape the world around us. Setting our intentions is not a set of instructions to the world about how to be with me this year. It's always a set of instructions for me about the attitude or quality of attention that I want to bring to whatever will be unfolding in my life. And so I was thinking, as we were preparing for this service, about the word I chose for 2020, delight, and how ridiculous it seems because of all that was not at all delightful about the last 10 months. But as I thought more deeply, I realized that perhaps delight was the perfect word for me for 2020. Because amid all of the struggle and pain, amid all of the challenge, amid every single moment where I thought I cannot keep doing this, there was this quality of attention that came into my life in 2020, where my focus came close in, where I was with my maddening and delightful children for some months, every waking hour of the day. And where I realized that closeness of attention, the ways that my life was robbed of the distractions that I wanted to have, brought me an opportunity to practice the intention of attitude that I wanted to have. And as wrong as it may sound, 2020 was a year where the word delight kind of worked, because delight is something you have to choose. And because delight is something that I was able to find in really small, tiny little moments. And because delight was actually the only thing that really helped me survive the worry and the fear and the struggle and the challenge of it all. So these words that we choose, the world may laugh at them, but they were never for the world. They were for our own intention about how we approach the days that will unfold around us without our control. So I'd like to invite you into a time of reflection knowing that nothing magical about our circumstance is going to change next week, but that we can take a moment to pause and decide how we most want to be and the attitudes and qualities that we most want to practice. I'm going to invite you to choose a word for 2021 that is a word to guide you and to guide the way that you encounter whatever may come, knowing more than ever that anything may come. I'm going to share some music during a time of reflection for you to choose or ponder the word, the quality that is calling you in this new year. And I'm going to pause the music. And I'm going to invite you, now that you've been pondering a word, to anoint yourself and consecrate this word to you for the year. So anointing is an act that exists in almost every religious and sacred tradition of the world, from ancient to contemporary times. These days, it's most common in Hindu practice, earth-based practices, and certain sects of Christian practice. The act of anointing is making sacred or dedicating and blessing by using holy oil or ointment or animal fat, or less commonly water, because of the ancient belief that the fat of an animal was a particularly potent source of power. Of course, oils and fat of various kinds are sources of fuel. So you could think of anointing as putting power toward your intention. So if you have some lotion or a little bit of oil that you grabbed at the beginning, or if not, you could just symbolically do this. You could put that oil or lotion on yourself, or if you're with someone, you could anoint one another. Thinking of it, the acts as a way that you're dedicating yourself to your intention. So I'd like to invite you to speak your word or hold it firmly in mind, and then anoint your hands that we have cleansed earlier in the service. Dedicate your hands toward the attitude and quality of presence you want to bring into this world by rubbing lotion or oil slowly and intentionally into your skin, consecrating yourself to the presence or attention that you have chosen for the year. We'll finish the song with a moment to do this ritual if you are so moved. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of the light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. We're going to share a closing hymn, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. This is an arrangement by Adam and Matt Pod, who serve our congregation in Brooklyn, New York, and it's performed by musicians and singers from Grace Chorale of Brooklyn, First Unitarian Congregational Society in Brooklyn, and First Presbyterian Church of Brooklyn. The image is zillions of Zoom squares with different faces of singers and orchestral musicians. They are a just beautiful variety of people of all ages, of all identities, of all races, and we see all of their faces in various times throughout the video. I invite you, if you're moved, to sing along from home.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
While though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. And though the darkness round me calls, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep
Dear ones, the year will be new and not, but through it all, may you keep singing. And may 2021 be the year we're together again. Our closing words are from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high, but take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Even now, especially now, you are not alone. We are with you across the distance. Go in blessing and be a blessing to a world that needs our care. Let us sing our benediction.
Share our benediction, lovingly before we part.
Thanks for being with us this week. Happy New Year. And we'd love to invite you to join us for coffee hour if you'd like to be a part of smaller group conversations, if you'd like to see one another's faces and chat and catch up. The meeting ID is on the slide, and we will post the link in the chat so that we can see you at coffee hour. Thank you for your patience with some of my captioning problem glitches today. We'll be back at it next week. And thanks for being with us today.